Okay, let's get into it. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a question that I think really gets to the heart of the biggest shift in cars we've seen in, well, decades.
It's a fantastic one. This is a custom deep dive for a listener who's facing a very specific dilemma, but it's one that a lot of people are thinking about.
Right. So you're driving a 2016 Mercedes C-Class. It's got 110,000 miles on it, and you're in Phoenix, Arizona, where the heat is just relentless.
And you're looking at swapping it for a used Tesla Model 3 that already has 80,000 miles.
And the goal here, and this is key, isn't about luxury or, 0 to 60 times. It's about finding a reliable, high-mileage workhorse vehicle.
You want to know which one is going to be the smarter bet, which one is less likely to leave you stranded and frankly cost you a fortune as the miles pile up past 150,000.
Exactly. And your core idea, your hypothesis, is the big one. Do electric cars, with their simpler mechanics, actually last longer and break down less than a gas car?
So our mission is to dig into the data. We're looking at longevity, reliability reports, and maybe most importantly, how these two different types of cars fail. That's where the real story is.
Okay, so let's start with the most obvious argument, the mechanical one. Simplicity versus complexity. The EV just has a massive advantage right out of the gate.
It's a complete paradigm shift. I mean, you're literally removing hundreds of moving parts. There's no complex engine with pistons and valves, no multi-speed transmission, no exhaust system.
All those things that can wear out, leak, and break.
You're swapping hundreds of potential failure points for essentially one big electric motor and a battery pack.
And that simplicity, it has to translate directly into less maintenance. We're talking about money you just don't have to spend.
Oh, absolutely. Forget oil changes. And for a German luxury car like a Mercedes, those are not cheap.
Tell me about it.
You have very few fluids to worry about, and then there's regenerative braking. This one is a huge deal.
Right, so when you slow down, the motor basically works in reverse and recharges the battery a little bit.
Exactly. So you're barely using your actual brake pads, only for really hard stops. We've seen reports of EV brake pads lasting, 150,000, even 200,000 miles.
That's unheard of in a regular gas car, especially one that's being driven a lot. So what does this actually mean in terms of, breaking down on the side of the road?
It means it happens a lot less. We found a really great German analysis that looked at this. They tracked cars from 2020 through 2022.
Okay.
For combustion cars, the average was 10.4 breakdowns for every 1,000 vehicles.
10.4, and what about the EVs?
Just 4.2.
Wow, less than half.
Less than half the breakdown frequency. The numbers are just incredibly strong for the EV right away. It's a fundamentally more reliable system for daily driving.
But here's the part I found really surprising. When you look at why the cars broke down, the number one culprit wasn't the engine or the big fancy battery. It was the same for both.
The humble 12-volt battery.
The same little box that's been in cars for 100 years.
Exactly. EVs still need one to run the lights, the computers, and basically to boot up the main high-voltage system.
Yeah.
If that little battery dies, the whole car is a brick.
So the fear that your super expensive high-tech EV powertrain is going to fail, that's largely misplaced. The data shows the motor and the main battery system only caused about 18% of the EV breakdowns.
Correct. The core system that actually moves the car is proving to be incredibly robust. So for you, the fear of some catastrophic EV drivetrain failure,
Yeah.
it's just not what the data shows happening in the real world.
Okay, that's a huge relief. But it does bring us to the real question of longevity. If the motor isn't the weak point, then it has to be the battery, right? That's what everyone worries about.
It is. That's the center of the conversation.
Yeah.
With an ICE car, longevity is all about mechanical wear and tear. Can the engine and transmission handle the stress over time?
Right.
With an EV, longevity is defined almost entirely by battery health, specifically capacity degradation over time.
And the data on that is actually, well, pretty good. Much better than the early headlines suggested. Modern EVs are now projected to have a service life of 15 to 20 years.
Which is right there with, or even better than, the average gas car. The typical ICE vehicle is on the road for about 12 to 15 years before it's either scrapped or needs a prohibitively expensive repair.
And if we think about that in terms of mileage, which is what matters for a workhorse car, the difference gets even bigger.
It becomes much starker. Your typical gas engine, especially a high-strung German one like in the C-Class, starts entering a high-risk zone around 150,000 miles. That's when big-ticket items start to fail.
So what's the equivalent number for an EV battery?
Well, the average battery loses about 1.8% of its capacity per year. If you run the numbers, that projects out to an average battery pack life of around 280,000 miles before it hits that 70% capacity threshold, which is typically considered its end of life.
280,000 miles. That is almost double the reliable lifespan of a typical gas powertrain.
It's a massive difference in operational life.
And this is where the other shoe drops, and it's a big one for you. The warranty. The Mercedes just doesn't have the same safety net.
This point is so critical. Almost every EV sold in the US comes with an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty on the battery pack. That protects you against major failure or excessive degradation.
A guarantee like that on an engine and transmission after the basic 5-year, 60,000-mile warranty is up. It's unheard of. Once that's done on the Mercedes, you're completely on your own.
Think about that. The single most expensive component in the Tesla is protected for years longer than the two most expensive components in the Mercedes. The risk is just on a different level.
Which tells you something about the manufacturer's confidence in their own parts.
It tells you everything. The risk of a complex mechanical system failing is just so much higher than the predictable, slow degradation of a well-managed battery.
Okay, so let's get specific to your two cars. The 2016 Mercedes C-Class at 110K miles. What is lurking under the hood for you?
You are squarely in the high-risk zone. These are fantastic engines when they work, but they're very complex. High-mileage issues often start with things like the timing chain or its tensioners.
And for someone who doesn't know, why is a timing chain repair so scary on a German car?
Because often, to even get to it, you have to perform what's called an engine-out service.
You have to pull the whole engine out of the car.
The entire engine comes out. And that means a simple parts repair suddenly becomes a multi-thousand-dollar job just in labor. And that's before you even talk about potential turbocharger wear or oil leaks from aging gaskets or transmission issues.
So the big question mark is that any one of those things can fail suddenly. The car could be driving perfectly 1 minute, and the next you're stranded with a $5,000 repair bill.
Exactly. It's the unpredictability. Now contrast that with the Model 3 at 80,000 miles. We have tons of real-world examples of early Teslas running 300,000, even 400,000 miles on their original motors. The drivetrain is solid.
The question isn't if it will break, but how much the battery has degraded.
Right, but I do want to add a point of nuance here. The drivetrain is solid, but a car with 80,000 miles is still a used car.
Sure, things like suspension, bushings, control arms.
All of that stuff will need attention on both cars eventually. But a couple thousand for suspension work is a planned expense. It's not the same as a surprise engine replacement that could cost more than the car is worth.
So if we're just comparing the core powertrain risk, it's a totally different world.
It is. Battery degradation is gradual. It's predictable. Tesla's own fleet data shows their packs hold about 88% of their capacity even after 200,000 miles.
You're trading the high-stakes gamble of a sudden mechanical failure for the certainty of a slow, manageable loss of range.
And for a workhorse vehicle, predictable is always, always better than unpredictable.
Even if your range drops by, say, 15%, the car still works. It still gets you to your job. You just have to plan your charging a bit more. A snap timing chain in the Mercedes means you are not working that day, period.
It's a mental shift. You stop worrying about the car breaking and start thinking more about managing its range.
Okay, now for the big variable. Phoenix, Arizona. That kind of extreme heat is an enemy to any car.
A huge enemy. For the Mercedes, the heat is just brutal on the cooling system. Rubber hoses get brittle, plastic parts crack. And that 12-volt battery we talked about, heat is its #1 killer.
You're lucky to get 2 years out of 12 volt in the desert.
Absolutely. The Tesla, on the other hand, is built for this. It has an active liquid cooling system that is constantly working to keep the main battery pack in its happy temperature zone, even when it's 115 degrees outside.
So for a used Model 3 in Phoenix, it's not just about the mileage. The previous owner's habits are a huge factor.
A huge factor. If they were constantly using DC fast chargers, especially in the middle of a summer day when the battery was already hot, that can speed up degradation.
So if you're going to buy this car, you need to do a little homework. You have to check the battery's state of health, the SOH. It tells you the battery's current max capacity versus when it was new.
And if that car, at 80,000 miles, still shows around 90% capacity, that's a fantastic sign. It means it was well cared for and the cooling system is doing its job.
And for you, moving forward, the rules are simple. Park in the shade or a garage when you can, and try not to let the car sit at 100% charge in that blazing sun.
There's one little silver lining for both cars in Phoenix, though.
No road salt.
No road saw. So you don't have to worry nearly as much about rust and corrosion on the frame and suspension components, which is great for overall longevity no matter what you're driving.
Okay, so let's put it all together. Final verdict time. When we look at all the data reliability, warranties, the actual mechanics of how they fail, the Model 3 just has a decisive advantage here.
It's not even close. There are simply fewer things that can break as it gets older. It's far less likely to hit you with a surprise, multi-thousand-dollar repair bill that is, frankly, just an expected part of owning an aging German luxury car.
So the answer to your original question is a clear yes. The data strongly supports your idea that an EV makes a better high-mileage workhorse.
Your operating costs will be lower, your uptime will be higher, and mile for mile, the Model 3 is just expected to be a more reliable, less dramatic vehicle to own for the long haul.
So the big practical takeaway for you is this. If you do make this swap, you're probably going to find it refreshingly drama-free. But you absolutely should invest in a home charger.
Yes, minimizing your reliance on those high-speed DC fast chargers is the single best thing you can do to protect the battery long-term, especially in that Arizona heat. Slow charging overnight is gentle on the battery and will help you get the most life out of it.
And that really brings us to our final thought for today, because this isn't just about your specific choice. It points to a much bigger trend.
This is already happening at a commercial level. Fleet operators, taxi companies, rideshare services, they are switching to EVs for this exact reason.
Because they can run up enormous mileage with almost no maintenance downtime. That means the car is on the road making money, not in the shop costing money.
It completely changes the economics of running a vehicle for a living.
The whole idea of what a high-mileage car even is, it's changing right in front of us because of this shift from mechanical complexity to electrical simplicity.
So we'll leave you with this question to think about. If we know that a well-built EV today is expected to last far longer than its gas-powered equivalent, what does high mileage even mean on a used car lot 5 years from now? Is 150,000 miles on an EV still going to be considered old, or is that just the start of its middle age?